Can politics truly change when the politicians change? It's a question that both France and the UK are now asking themselves. Despite the constant turnover of prime ministers in both countries, the political situation remains unchanged and, in fact, has become even more chaotic. The government keeps changing, but instability continues to spread. This change isn't the result of good decisions, but rather a change that doesn't bring real transformation. So, what is truly causing this chaos? And what can we learn from these failures? What happens when the people decide to rise against their government? In both France and the UK, the response was explosive. The protests didn't just stem from opposition to pension reforms or economic policies. They became a rejection of the entire political system itself. In France, the streets were filled with anger as people took to the streets, calling for a change that went beyond policies. It was a demand for the very fabric of their democracy to be re-examined. But what was behind this fury? Was it simply about pensions? Or was it a deeper crisis of trust in the system? This was not just a revolt. It was the manifestation of years of growing frustration. The people no longer believed that their voices mattered in the halls of power. With each protest, it became clearer. They weren't just rejecting policies, they were rejecting the political establishment. The question now is, where does it go from here? Is there any hope for healing the rift between the people and the system that's supposed to represent them? Can a political system survive when the people lose trust in its leaders? In France, despite the constant reshuffling of prime ministers, the political chaos only deepened. With every change in leadership, the underlying issues remained unresolved, and the people's frustration continued to mount. Macron's administration seemed to be stumbling from one crisis to the next, never truly addressing the root causes of the growing discontent. After the pension reform debacle, the people didn't just want a change in leadership, they wanted a complete overhaul of the system itself. France was no longer just struggling with policy disagreements, it was grappling with a systemic breakdown. The question that now lingered in the air was whether France could recover from this political fracture, or if the country would remain trapped in a cycle of instability, unable to move forward. What happens when a country makes a decision it can never take back? In the UK, the fallout from Brexit continues to wreak havoc on daily life. While the political ramifications of leaving the European Union were clear, the full economic and social consequences were more devastating than many had imagined. 6 years after the referendum, the British people were still reeling from the aftermath, with rising living costs, increased food prices, and an economy that felt more fragile with each passing year. But the impact went beyond economics. The cultural and social divides that Brexit had exposed were widening. The question that haunted the nation was whether the UK could ever heal from the wounds of such a divisive decision. Could the country rebuild itself? Or had it sealed its fate by severing its ties with Europe? As the British government struggled to address the growing economic crisis, the people's anger and frustration boiled over. The political establishment, once seen as stable, now faced the wrath of a population that felt abandoned. So, what happens when the people's patience finally runs out? And can the UK recover? Or will it remain lost in the aftermath of its own choices? Can replacing politicians solve the deeper issues facing a country? Both in France and the UK, the continuous cycle of changing leadership revealed a painful truth. New faces in power didn't lead to meaningful change. While politicians came and went, the structural problems continued to fester, creating an ever-growing rift between the people and their leaders. In France, the political system, once a model of strong central leadership, now seemed incapable of addressing the country's most pressing issues. The same story played out in the UK, where successive governments failed to effectively tackle the crisis that had been brewing for years. This constant reshuffling of leadership left the people wondering, are these new leaders really different? Or are they just part of the same broken system? The question now is, can these countries fix the system itself? Or is the damage too deep? It's not just about changing politicians, it's about fundamentally re-evaluating the systems that failed to deliver for the people. Can the citizens of France and the UK find a way to rebuild their trust in their governments? Or is it too late for them to turn back? What can other nations learn from the chaos in France and the UK? As both countries continue to grapple with political instability, their struggles are serving as a warning to the rest of the world. The failure to address systemic issues, such as inequality, economic disparity, and broken political systems, has left both nations in a state of turmoil. But can their mistakes offer a roadmap for other countries to avoid similar fates? Other nations watching this crisis unfold must ask themselves, could this happen to us? With rising tensions, increasing political fragmentation, and social divisions. The story of France and the UK is not just their own. It is a cautionary tale for all democracies. The real question now is whether the world will learn from their missteps before it's too late, or will we continue down the same path, ignoring the lessons of the past? Can changing politicians fix a broken system? The experiences of France and the UK suggest that simply swapping leaders won't solve the deeper problems these nations face. Without meaningful change to the systems themselves, the cycle of instability will continue. These countries' struggles serve as a powerful reminder. Unless the root causes of political and economic failure are addressed, no amount of leadership change will bring real progress. As the world watches, one question remains. Will the lessons from France and the UK be learned, or will other nations fall into the same traps?